Hello, my name is Josephine Ask, and this is my fluency presentation. Starting off, this is my introduction. So, fluency is one of the 5 pillars of reading as identified by the National Reading Panel in the year 2000. Fluency requires students to read with accuracy, proper rate, and expression. Fluency requires automaticity and word recognition and decoding. As one of the 5 pillars, reading fluency is essential for true literacy mastery. One cannot become truly literate if they are not fluent. Fluency is a requirement for students who want to have true comprehension. Why fluency matters? Fluency matters quite a bit. It is not only one of the key factors of a truly literate student, it is the bridge between early foundational literacy skills of the phonological awareness and phonics variety. It is also the connection between that and later literacy skills such as comprehension and vocabulary, as found out by Van Wig in 2026, as seen in the Van Wig video on the week 4 lecture resources. Students without fluency cannot truly connect their early literacy understanding to the necessary reading skills. Word skills are worthless without the ability to read them naturally. Fluency bridges that gap between decoding words for reading and using them for higher level thinking. So it is a process in which early level skills such as decoding become truly integrated into reading, and thus the higher level skills can be fully integrated because one cannot truly understand the reading until it becomes as simple as speaking. So here are the 3 components of fluency. First, we have accuracy, then we have rate, and then we have prosody. So accuracy is basically how accurately the student reads the words. It requires a lot of decoding, a lot of blending, a lot of early fluency skills. Rate is a mixture of basically those comprehension skills and that decoding. So it's basically the accuracy and the prosody mixed together. So it is the way in which the student reads. It is the number of words per minute that they read, how quickly they read, their intonation, all that is the prosody. So as you can see, rate really relies upon that prosody and that accuracy, but prosody is basically the way in which the student reads. It's their inflection in the words. It's how they read it. It has to be natural for them to have that actual prosody when they're reading. So next, we have accuracy. So accuracy, I decoded it into 2 main sections, which is decoding words and recognition of words. So accuracy is first. The accuracy and fluency requires the foundational skills of decoding, as found by the Colorado State University, Pueblo. And this is without decoding, students guess words. So literacy accuracy decreases. When students do not have those foundational skills, they are unable to decode those words, and thus accuracy is not founded. Accuracy relies upon students who have an understanding of words and phrases and have an understanding of what the words mean. And then the recognition, students must recognize and remember familiar words. Part of recognition is building a word repertoire. So having those sight words that students recognize as they grow, they are going to gain more sight words. And that was from Rosinski et al. In 2012. And it is really necessary for students to have these skills because without accuracy, they have yet to master automaticity and decoding and blending and sound recognition. Without these skills, students are unable to reach true fluency and thus cannot reach true comprehension. Rate, I found, was a mixture of effort and processing. So effort is that maintaining a consistent rate, while reading requires students to exert minimal effort in decoding and blending letter sounds. So again, it's that decoding skill and that blending skill, but it's the lack of effort that results in that rate. Students must not take too much time in those decoding and blending skills to get up their rate. So these processes should become effortless, as found by Rosinski in 2004. And that processing, when processing the text, the reader should not be diverting additional attention to processing written language. Processing should be automatic. So not only is that effort low, the processing should be automatic, so it happens instantly. So when that rate is occurring, it doesn't matter what the speed is. It just means that the processing should be happening right away. That necessity, without proper rate, reading oral text remains incomprehensible. When proper rate is achieved, students can properly comprehend the material being discussed. Reading at the right pace requires an understanding the passage of material being read. And then last we have prosody. So I decided it was in two sections, which were grammar and cadence. So prosody indicates that the reader comprehends the meaning behind punctuation, grammar, word choices, and how they impact inflection and meaning of the text. So that was from Riken et al. In 2025. So prosody really requires those basic reading skills to transfer from writing and understanding into readings. So a student needs to understand how punctuation affects the reading of the text, how grammar affects the reading of the text, and why word choices can affect inflection. So understanding those really affect prosody. And next, cadence really affects prosody because the reader's rate really depends on their cadence. Although grammar affects it, cadence is really the main key. If students do not have that proper cadence where they understand how to slow down or how to speed up in places, they don't truly understand how prosody can be affecting fluency. When students know when and where to emphasize or speed through a text indicates an understanding of pacing and cadence that would not otherwise be possible without fluency. And then the necessity is that prosody is not only necessity in text and demonstrating student understanding the text, but conveys meaning to those listening to the student read. Prosody allows for meaning transference through understanding of tone, speed, and more. So, fluency for comprehension. Fluency truly is that bridge between foundational literacy skills and comprehension, as it utilizes early foundational skills to build a clearer understanding of the material. Reading without fluency would not allow for the proper conveyance of meaning, which would not result in comprehension of the material. Each step builds on the next. Fluency cannot occur without foundational skills, but neither can comprehension exist without fluency or foundational knowledge. As stated by Brzezinski, 2004, literacy must resemble normal speaking intonations to reach comprehension. However, those cannot occur without an understanding of written structure learned from early literacy concepts. So fluency is not just that bridge. It is I would say it's like a puzzle piece that connects everything together. Bridges can connect things, but puzzle pieces truly lock things in place. So instead of a bridge, I would say that fluency is that puzzle piece that connects one section of a puzzle to the next and allows students to build in those other pieces that can keep them going. And for applications as a reading specialist, I decided that there are four main applications that I would want to use as a reading specialist when understanding fluency. So I took this to mean that there are four ways that reading specialists can apply fluency when working with students. And the first one was oral rate reading tests. These are already used, but as a reading specialist, you now have an additional understanding of how they can be used. So understanding fluency allows reading specialists to better apply testing strategies for oral reading rate. Additionally, it allows for better comprehension of what to look for during testing. So basically that oral reading rate testing or that words per minute testing is far more influential because you understand the necessity behind it and what to actually look for. You understand those pauses, you understand how to look for that rate, that speed, and you understand that not only words per minute are great, but it also depends on the text type and what the student is reading. The next is choral rating, and choral rating is that strategy where students all read together. It is a big strategy used especially in younger grades, but I do believe that it would be beneficial for all grades, especially as a pre-teaching strategy for reminding students that they do know those words, or especially when students are learning a new set of words, especially with jargon and those specific words for a specific type of text or specific type of focus. usually in science or history, and nor another focus that has very specific jargon. Choral reading is a strategy that allows students to practice oral reading as a group. This is best practice for students who are unsure of reading but have already developed foundational literacy skills. So students already have those skills, but they lack that confidence. That is something that I saw in my student this week when I was watching him. Once he had that foundational skill when he was talking to that teacher, he really understood that he had those reading skills. But it first took him to develop that confidence by talking to someone else, and choral reading really helps him develop it while also looking at the text. Next is modeling fluency. So modeling reading in a similar way to choral reading is a strategy that demonstrates proper practices in readings, but however, that is based on the teacher reading. So the teacher models the specific reading aspects that they want to see. If it is a text that has a lot of changes in speed or intonation, they can model that. If it is a text that has very specific aspects of grammar, they would want to model that. If it is poetry, for example, they want to model how to go over poetry and do specific pauses, they can model that. It allows specialists to demonstrate very specific skills in the text that they'd like the students to focus on. And lastly, reader's theater is a very specific method that gamifies fluency by incorporating acting. This is a method that I would not personally use for shy students, but it would work well for a group of students who are either really comfortable with each other or a group of students who are really into that gamified aspect of learning. So it is best utilized for students who are not confident in their reading but are not afraid to demonstrate their individual skills. So they're not yet confident in reading, but they do have that ability to go beyond socially to demonstrate their skills. So they're not afraid to show off their reading, but they're also not afraid to demonstrate their acting abilities. So if you have a group of kids who really love to act things out and to have fun, this would be a great strategy for them. It would also be a great strategy for small groups. If you have a group of students who really enjoy each other's company, this would be a great way to build bonds, but also get that reading in there. Oops, hey doodle. Sorry. Did I go too far again? Yep, sorry again. So key takeaways. Fluency is a connector between early and later literacy concepts. Fluency is far more than just an interim piece between those two concepts. It solidifies those skills and makes them automatic, allowing for later skills to develop. Again, that puzzle piece. It is not just that rope that connects or that bridge. It is a puzzle piece that locks in place and connects them together. It allows them to make for that automaticity that we're really looking for during comprehension. And secondly, that confidence is a key aspect in developing fluency. Confidence really does aid in developing comprehension, as it's far more linked than I previously considered. Students who lack that confidence or that oral speaking skill are far less likely to speak or take those opportunities to have those uncomfortable feelings occur when they're reading out loud. And thus, they're far less likely to develop those fluency skills that lead to comprehension. So if your student is unsure of their oral reading abilities, make sure that you push them a little bit. Make sure that you get them to read. Developing confidence is really that key to understanding student fluency and to getting them to read. And an overall fluency recap. So fluency is far more important than educators consider. Although it is considered important, I believe that is far more important than many of us consider. And I believe it is on par with comprehension, because if we don't have that fluency, we cannot have that comprehension. Just as like we cannot have that foundational skill, we can't have that comprehension or that fluency. So they all lead to the next part. Kind of like how you can't put a puzzle piece together until it is in place. Kind of like how you need that outer edge of the puzzle. That's what the foundational skills are, but a puzzle is nothing without those middle parts. And that's what that reading fluency and that comprehension is. It is far more than the sum of its parts. It is fluency, and it is something that I had never previously considered. more than getting students to read, but fluency truly is important, and it really allows for that transference of skills. And here are my references. Thank you again for listening to my presentation. Have a wonderful day, and I hope that you're having a lovely week. Thank you again.